Just want to remind you guys, this episode is presented by Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. What's going on, Colts Nation? We want to welcome back on very special guest, Alex from Hail Mary Sports. Alex, welcome back to the show, man. I know you were on a couple weeks ago with Derek, but how are you doing, man? First time we've connected this season.
Yeah, no, it's good to see you again. I know that we've done this. We've done it every year now. I think we did it the AR year, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Yes. With Bernard Ryman, remember that one? It's been fun. So it's good to run it back. This time we're not going to use a PFF sim, so maybe we won't get the same luck. But well, I'm just excited to be here. It's good to be hanging out with you guys.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, Colts have some needs we can definitely jump into. And Colts right now at the number 14th pick, they have, I believe, every single pick this year, which is something that's kind of nice because some years they haven't had first-round picks. Some years they've been a little bit further on in the draft. So I'm excited to jump into this one today, man. So I figure we just get going with this thing and get it rolling here for the Colts.
Yeah, no, I'm hyped for it. Let's get it going.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so there you go, your guys.
Oof. Wow. See if there's any curveballs. I mean, we saw some pretty big fallers right there. But I assume we're not doing trades.
Yeah, we'll not do trades right now. I probably should turn that off. But okay, so somehow. Wow, this would be the dream scenario for the Colts, I think.
Yeah.
With these guys available here, Tyler Warren, Malachi Starks, even James Pierce.
Right.
When you're kind of looking here for Indianapolis from your perspective, I know you've done a ton of mock drafts already. Out of the two guys, because in my mind, Alex, these are the two guys for the Colts that I'm like, if either of them are there, you run the card up and you're good. But if in this scenario somehow they are both available, who do you pick here for the Colts? Who do you think makes the most sense here?
Right. So I think a question that Colts organization, as well as like us in this situation, we got to ask ourselves is, what's the actual intended goal of this pick? Is it to, like, how sold are we on Anthony Richardson? I'm personally totally on board with continuing to develop him, right? Like, I'm not going to say he's on such a short leash. I mean, the poor guy played 13 games. So if my goal is let's maximize the team for Anthony Richardson because I think he's the future, that's what are the best ways to make the quarterback like have the best situation. Have the coaching, which I personally really like Steichen. So it is what it is. But then have the coaching, have a good O-line. I think you guys have a pretty damn solid O-line. And then have something that's a reliable running back or tight end. You have one of the two. I think the best way to give Anthony Richardson a reliable option is to give him that relief valve. And running back is for a lot of teams, but you already have that, and you still need to add more to it. So I think that Tyler Warren provides the best foundation. We're also in a really good defensive back class. So we do have a lot of depth there. Tight end, we have a lot of good tight ends, but when your goal is not, hey, let's build the best defense all around, it is let's make sure our franchise is best set for a Super Bowl. And to do that, your quarterback needs to be the best. I would be leaning more towards the offensive side of the ball.
Okay, let's do it. Tyler Warren then is the pick for the Colts. Now, Colts have figured out their tight end position, man. It has been far too long. Gosh, their last good tight end, probably Jack Doyle, maybe Eric Ebron. It's been a while for the Colts.
Eric Ebron, man, that sends me back.
Man, you're telling me. It's been a while here that we've had that. Okay, so here we are at pick 45. So Colts have gotten their tight end, so we can check that one off the list. But here's where it gets interesting, man, because you got, a bunch of, some people will say these are some suggested picks here.
Right.
Offensive tackle, which I don't think necessarily is a top need for Indianapolis. I think it could be, if the Colts did address it, I would think it'd be probably in free agency, to be honest, because they did draft a bunch of offensive linemen last year in last year's draft. So I do think they're set there. I don't think they're going to be looking, unless you disagree with me, I don't think Jalen Milroe is going to be a guy that the Colts are going to be looking for at this point. Even though they have talked about wanting to, give some competition to Anthony Richardson, I don't think this is necessarily the move here.
Right.
But when you're moving on, you got Jihad Campbell, which I would say linebacker is definitely a need for the Colts.
I was going to ask you.
But how big of a need? That's a big question. You have a safety here. Nick Amenwori out of South Carolina. You have defensive line. I mean, you know how much Chris Ballard likes his defensive line.
Yep.
So out of some of these guys sitting here, show a couple other guys here too, some DBs. Is there a guy that stands out amongst the rest for you personally, Alex, that you think would make sense for Indy here?
So there are 3 guys that I've narrowed down based on the ones that are available. That's Jihad Campbell. I mean, my question to you would be, how probable are you guys bringing back EJ Speed?
I would say it's probably more likely not to happen.
Right. Because I would like Jihad in a will role, and then also the fact that I think Lou would be very happy to blitz Jihad Campbell, former number 1 edge in his high school class. That'd be super sick. But the other 2 players, Nick Amenwori, 6'3", 230 pounds. He's going to run in the 4.4 to 4.3 range, and he has multiple interceptions that are pick sixes on the year. He was my safety 1 coming to the year. We're seeing him even, I think, trying to remember if it's Eric Edholm or whether it was Matt Miller, but one of these big heads ended up putting Amenwori to the Colts in the first round. So big asterisk there. And then also the other one, as you scroll down, is Azareye'h Thomas out of Florida State. He's 6'2", 198 pounds. So he has that big physical build for the boundary and he has that 4.4 to 4.3 athleticism that you don't really get from Jalen Jones, who was a big my guy, and then Juju Brent. Those are the guys who I love the most on the boundary. So I love those guys. I like Azareye'h for the new opportunities that you have. But I do think that, I've seen enough corner-wise to where I would be much more leaning into the upside of a 6'3", 230 dude who can run in the 4.3s, who has great ball skills. That would be my pick personally, but I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, so I think for me, it obviously will be a big factor in what they do in free agency, right? Because say you go and sign a Javon Holland, for example, safety's not nearly as high of a pick. But as it currently stands, I think if I'm choosing out of these positions, I'm probably going safety.
Right.
Especially a guy like with Lou's defense, a Jesse Bates center fielder type of guy that they just frankly don't have right now. I mean, Julian Blackman he's been fine, but he's been either hurt or inconsistent. And he's free safety. So
and he's free agent on top of it. So it works. Yeah. Nick Amenwori is a dream pick. I've been taking Warren and Amenwori ad nauseum at this point.
Yeah. And I do think linebacker, even though I think it is a need, I could see Indianapolis going in free agency, or I could see them waiting a little bit later because Chris Ballard actually, if there's one thing he's done well is his draft linebackers. He has found a lot of good linebackers, day 3 guys he's found. I mean, he found, Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed on day 3, and he's found multiple other guys as well. So
I mean, Jalen Charlie's was a safety, and they got on day 3. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I would say safety right now, free safety especially. There's really nobody on the roster for Indianapolis. So I kind of go tight end, safety as kind of my 1A, 1B needs. Kind of interchange it all the time. So I think for those reasons, if Amenwori's here, it would be really hard for me to pass up on him.
I agree. I mean, I keep your guys' depth chart open right over here as well. And it's if you test out the other theory where you went after Malachi Starks, first off, he has more limited athleticism. I think he's going to run closer to 4.5. So he's not going to have that same range that Amenwori has. He's not going to be able to play that Jesse Bates role at that same capacity, which I don't think you want to force Starks into in the first place. But I love Malachi Starks to death. But if you took him, then right here you'd be dealing with Harold Fannin, maybe Elijah Arroyo. I don't think those tight ends provide the same level of security blanket that Tyler Warren does. So it's you just get your perfect blend of exactly the roles that you need with the value that you can actually be able to get for great value at these spots. So I love the 1-2 punch there with Warren and Amenwori.
Awesome. Let's do it then. Amenwori here for Indianapolis. Okay, so now you got tight end and safety. We have an A+ so far, Alex. We're doing a great job.
Let's go.
When it comes to drafting. Okay, so we kind of know the first 2 needs, and I've mentioned a few other needs here for the Colts. And so as you move into round 3 here, the Colts will be picking at pick 80. So you see some of these guys going here. Okay, so when it comes to this, you still have actually a lot of guys here, which would make some sense here. You have an offensive lineman, you have a running back, a couple running backs here. You have even a quarterback a little bit later, a couple quarterbacks here a little bit later. You have, some defensive line, an edge guy here.
Right.
When you're looking at all these guys here around pick 80 for Indy, based off of some of the needs, whether it was, talking about corner, talking about, running back, which is definitely a need. RB2 is definitely a need for Indy.
Yep.
Who are some of the guys that you would say make the most sense here?
See, the thing is, it depends on your vision for what you want your RB2 to do. And I think you have a better vision of this than I do. Like, what archetype would you think would complement your running back core the best? Like, I assume what you guys had in Zach Moss in terms of someone who could be more of a scat back and a one cut would be what your ideal is. But is there someone like, because Trey Henderson's a home run hitter. I feel like you guys kind of already have that in the bag. Caleb Johnson is a high volume guy. Kind of already have that in the bag combined with the running backs that you do have. So
yeah, I would say something the Colts have really struggled in, and this Jonathan Taylor's a fantastic player, but third down, pass protection, catching out of the backfield, that kind of stuff, he has kind of struggled in at times.
Right.
So I would think that type of back, and obviously you saw when Moss was here, that one cut type back as well. So I don't know if there's some sort of like happy medium there to find a guy that can do a little bit of everything for Indy, and also just a guy that can take some carries off of Taylor, because as good as he's been, he also has a lot of tread on those tires from his time at Wisconsin to how much the Colts have relied on him his first couple of years in the league. So I would say one of those type of guys, if possible. I think that would make a lot of sense here to kind of relieve Taylor a little bit more than he's been relieved the last couple of years.
I mean, at pick 80, I'm not going to say no to Trey Henderson because he does actually have some pass blocking upside as well, which I really do like. They brought him in on third downs noticeably more than what I'd expect because they had Quinshon Judkins. I actually really like Trey Henderson here too because he's used to playing in a little bit more of a nasty climate up north, so you don't have to worry about him being climate specific, which, I mean, there are players, unfortunately, like Tua Tagovailoa that you see. It is a legit thing. Certain players just don't perform as well in other climates, and Trey Henderson can pretty much play anywhere at any time. So I personally like it. He also has really solid hands. He's someone that you don't want to give the ball 15 times a game, but that's what JT is kind of for. He's a relief weapon there, Trey Henderson, that can end up being that guy who takes a screen pass to the house and, ends up just being a pretty reliable guy on third down for you.
All right. Well, I think we'll go Trey Henderson there.
As we said, guys, today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. Now, what is Prize Picks? Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Instead of battling against thousands of other players across platforms, you're basically picking 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're choosing more or less on those stat projections to be able to watch those winnings roll in. It's very easy. Do you guys want to play along at some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and UFC fighter Sugar Sean O'Malley? Well, if you guys sign up today, you can find the community plays under the promos tab of the app to view the entries of some of the biggest names on the platform and be a part of that as well. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 just like that with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Like a lot of other things, guys, they also offer injury insurance, so your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So if someone exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player projection won't count against you and the rest of your entry stays live. So it's a great bounce back for that one. What I love about the app as well, guys, is it's not just sports like NBA, NHL, football, and tennis, and baseball, and all these other things, but there's also a lot of others that go into it as well. If you like to place entries on video game situations like Call of Duty, CS2, Apex, if that's something that appeals to you, there's a wide variety of sports and video games and everything else that you can place entries on. And I love how expansive it is. Even just looking at the NBA, there's entries you can make with turnovers, with points. You can do combo deals, dunks, field goals attempted, all of these different things. So there's just so many different ways to make money off of these entries. Be sure to download the app today and use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'm thinking of other positions that we could address. Still looking at that boundary corner. I think maybe like another depth edge. I mean, I haven't seen exactly how there's guys like Darian Porter who I do not think should be listed at 82. He's going to be running apparently in the 4.2s. He's 6'4", technically 6'3" and like 200 pounds, but it is what it is. Like PFF has a more accurate board, but I'm like, edge, defensive interior. I'm curious what you think about those because I think those are pretty like pressing issues to get a longer term option.
Ooh. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, you don't have outside of Latu, you really don't have a guy that you look at right now and say 100% he is going to be our guy for the next number of years. I mean, you have some guys on expiring deals or guys who are going to be set to hit free agency here.
Right.
So there is a lot of question marks. And now with a new defensive coordinator, I mean, you never know the type of guys he's looking for here. So I would definitely say edge and backup interior defensive line is definitely a need for Indy. I mentioned linebacker. That's still a need.
Right.
Boundary corner would be a need. I would even be open to, throwing out the idea of another safety too, finding just more quality depth in there because you just don't have that at all right now. And obviously it'll what happens in free agency will matter as well here. But this team has so many needs. Interior offensive line would also be a need because you don't know the future with Ryan Kelly and Braden Smith right now.
Right.
So there could be a reality where you're missing two of your big starters from a year ago. And you have guys that could replace, but maybe some guys to be in there to add some quality depth. That would be an option as well.
I'm curious, is Quincy, could you scroll down a little bit and see if Quincy Riley is available? He's their number 115 prospect.
Yes. There you go.
So Quincy Riley would be the guy who I'm looking at right here. I actually got to talk to his uncle on the flight back from Mobile, which is quite funny. But, he's somebody who I've had relatively high as like day 2 grade for the entire year. He was previous to this year known as like the track guy who's a big hitter. He wasn't playing 100% this year, but he's someone who has a sub 10-2 100-meter dash, which is insane. Like he is a track athlete. He also he's a little bit on the shorter side, but great ball skills as well. And he's a massive hitter, super high IQ as well. Like I feel like the value for him at this point is impeccable, but I will say one thing. I really love Darius Alexander out of Toledo, who was up a bit higher on their board as a defensive interior. He shined at the Senior Bowl. And he was just very, very, very efficient, man. He's like their number 104 guy. He is incredible. So those are the two guys I'd be looking at this spot. I'm curious what you would weigh between the two.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about Alexander. What role would he maybe fit here in this defense?
Yeah, so he's 6'4", 310. He's a very balanced defender. So he is both. He's a very good block shedder, good off the line. I mean, he's someone who could win one-on-one matchups. I genuinely think that he could be someone who starts even over Grover Stewart in a year. So that's a longer term investment, but Darius Alexander is someone who is hinted at going at the end of the second. So he is nearly an every down player that you can use in a multitude of roles. And he's even been used out at edge. So that's something I want to toss in there as well. 310 pounds. At the Senior Bowl, he took certain edge reps. So, again, in one-on-ones, he took edge reps. So it's not like some fluke thing that Toledo, they don't have anybody and they have one good player. But it would be between Darius and then Quincy, unless you think another position is more in demand, which then we could obviously explore that option.
Hey, man, if I know anything about Chris Ballard, I know he loves his defensive linemen. So I think that it would make sense. The Colts have made a very concerted effort this offseason with already their coaching staff moves to focus on defensive back, but it's Chris Ballard. And I just feel like every year he's bound to make some sort of defensive line investment. Right. And this is an investment that I look, like you said, not just for this year, but moving forward. I mean, you don't right now have a viable option behind Grover Stewart. You don't really have anybody behind DeForest Buckner of note, unless you re-sign some guys. And obviously with a new scheme and all that stuff, you don't know a lot of this stuff. But I think adding a guy that's position flexible would make a lot of sense here for Indy to do. And, I think they will address corner specifically more in free agency. I just, with how Lou likes to run his defense, I mean, they already have Jalen Jones. They already have, Kenny Moore. Right. And they have a guy like Samuel Womack, who I don't know. He's under contract, so I assume they're going to keep him around. I think he could be a solid 3 or 4 corner. So I do think Indianapolis, actually the cornerback depth isn't as poor as some people think it is.
Right.
Now, what they definitely lack is a cornerback one, which is, I think it will be a big focus hopefully this offseason. So I'm probably going to go defensive line, to be honest with you, because I feel like you've drafted so many corners the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But, you've had some success, but also some not so much. So I would probably go here, defensive line.
Yeah, Darius is great.
All right, let's do it. Okay, well, that gave us an A there. That's good. So every pick B+ or above, that's solid. I'll take that.
Yeah, it's doing us. Well, I mean, to be fair, their board is relatively different than what I'm used to. So I'm like, damn, all right. We get to snipe some guys down the board. I love that.
Seriously. Hey, I mean, you never know. Drafts fall weird, don't they? Like every year, there's guys you think, how are they still here?
Right. That's the thing of the draft, man. There's always going to be good players that end up falling. So, like, it's going to happen. Just accept it and then just be appreciative of what does happen. I will say Quincy Riley is still there, but let's look at some other guys as well before just saying, okay, run to the podium, which I think it is one. But, I mean, we also got to check out what's up.
A couple linebackers here, Stutzman, Higgins.
Right. Higgins is really, really solid. He's just the definition of reliability, which I don't think he should be someone who plays a will linebacker position. I'd want someone who's a little bit more athletic. Apparently, according to reports, what's his name? Danny Stutzman has like a 4.7 or a 4.8 40, so not necessarily the most athletic guy either. If I'm looking at their board and someone who I am absolutely falling in love with as the board falls, it's their 186th player, Jeffrey Bossa, the linebacker. He's a former safety as well. That's a perfect EJ Speed replacement. And I'm just playing the board right now. I think he ends up being an early day 3 pick, but personally, I think that would be the best option at 191 if we get lucky. Lucky. So it's between Riley as well as Bossa at this pick as well. So depending on what you want to do, you want to roll the dice.
Let's go Riley. Let's do it.
Yeah, Quincy. I love
Quincy Riley. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Dude, he's such a great player, man. And
I hope he falls this far.
I don't think he will. He ended up winning he got voted the best defensive back at the Senior Bowl. They have like a WWE belt for it, like pure metal too. It's insane.
Wow. Dang.
Yeah. So
crazy.
They treat their guys well.
Yeah. All right, here we are.
Okay. Let's see. Did we get lucky?
Go down.
186.
86. Okay. Here he is.
We are blessed. Yeah, no, former safety. He actually ended up being the fastest linebacker on day 1. I don't remember paying attention to the stats on day 2 and 3, but he ran over 20 miles per hour, pretty much step for step with Tez Johnson. So, yeah, no, he flies. He's a former safety for goodness sake. So he fits perfectly into a will role.
Perfect. Well, I think we just got this one more pick here, 234.
We do. And honestly, my gut reaction would be Kyle McCord. He ended up having a really good Shrine Bowl, and it brings in some competition. Yeah. But let's explore some other options. Might as well while we're here. What other positions do you think would need to be addressed with some good late day value?
Yeah, I would say, interior offensive line, to always be looking for that.
Monheim's good for that. Oh, Jackson Slater too, man. Man. There's some good players in this class. Jackson Slater was awesome out of Sacramento State.
Yeah. Okay, that's one we'll keep in mind.
Yeah.
So, like I said, safety, there's a lot of receivers here I noticed.
Yeah. It's a little bit underwhelming. Like, compared to more recent years, I think that there's a good chance that some of these receivers fall. Theo Weiss is fun, though. But, my top 3, given this situation, in no particular order, would be McCord, Monheim, as well as Slater. Jonah's been a multi-year starter. What's your goal with the offensive line? Do you want to take a shot at someone being excellent, or do you just want someone who's damn good?
Man, that's a great question.
It's how comfortable are you? If you're willing to take a risk, I'd go Slater. Monheim played every position on the offensive line.
That's what I'm looking for
and stuff too.
That's actually something I told Derek. We'll go with Slater here.
Yeah.
That's what I told Derek. I said, look, man, we just need a guy that is position flexible, is that Swiss Army knife that can play guard, tackle, can play anywhere you need him to play.
Yeah.
Because we don't really have that right now. And that's kind of the depth thing that the Colts need right now.
Yeah.
Is just some guys who can play multiple positions well.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
Man, that was a good draft, man. I don't think Slater ever slips that far just because of the fact he got a lot of love in Mobile. But no, that's a good group of guys there for sure.
Absolutely. Well, man, I hope it turns out this way. This would be a fantastic draft for Indianapolis. But, man, why don't you let everybody know, what have you been working on? What have been some of the stuff you have been doing over at your channel? And I know you've been hitting a lot of growth recently, but why don't you tell everybody what you've been doing?
Yeah, so I pretty much am looking and predicting the draft year round. So I'm pretty much a draft phenom, or not phenom, but like I'm a draft fiend. I'm addicted to it, but you know, if you guys like mock drafts, you guys like to be able to see what's going on. ESPN Plus likes to, you know, be a barrier to entry for some people. Not me. I'll go in and I'll review them so you guys get to see it. But regardless, I watch players in all 22 tape. If you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, I end up posting all 22 clips to where, you know, I have an honest opinion. It's not always right, but I'm willing to be right or wrong regardless of the fact, because I want to be, you know, truthful. And if you guys like to be able to see small 22 clips, it's a good place to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, guys, go follow Hail Mary Sports over there. Do appreciate your time. Again, man, I'm sure we'll do it more, but man, it feels like the draft's still so far away, but I am so ready for it. It's literally a holiday at this point.
It is a holiday. We need draft day to be a holiday. Just like Super Bowl Monday needs to be a holiday too, so we can like recover, but it is what it is.
It is. Well, Alex, I do appreciate you coming on, man. We'll do it again soon.
All right. Sounds good. I appreciate you.
All right. Yep.